about the books that I read in February. I only read 3 books this month, so this is going to be a very short video. Let's get into it. First book I read in February is A Very Easy Death by Simone de Beauvoir. I'm always struggling to say that last name because my one semester of French wants to come out, but then I'm not even sure if I'm saying it right, so apologies to the French. This is a work of nonfiction and it's all about the last days of her mother's life. I went into this expecting it to be more like philosophical, more lyrical writing on death, like stuff like that. I was just expecting there to be more behind it than just like details of her mother dying. But in the end, it was mainly the latter. So that definitely affected my enjoyment a bit, which like seems like an awful thing to say because she's writing about her freaking mother dying. So I don't want to sound like a bitch, but just my personal enjoyment of it, like I think it's because I had those expectations of something it wasn't ever going to be. I think I was like a little bit let down. I did enjoy it though still. It's not a favorite, but I gave it 3 stars. So if the premise sounds interesting to you, then like go ahead, but just don't expect it to be like this philosophical pondering about death, because it's not. It is a great cover though, and a great name. Ugh. I don't even know how to describe this one. Next is Black Swan by Eve Babbitt. This is a collection of short stories. The back describes it as stories that look back on the 1980s and early 1990s, decades of dreams, drink, and glimpses into a changing world. But there's 9 total stories in here, so not that short. It's a pretty decent sized book. I would say they follow her life in Hollywood. It seems less like short stories and more so like autobiographical moments of her life that she changed maybe the names of or some details so that it wasn't a work of nonfiction. But it reads much more like short essays about her life. It's all about Hollywood, it's all about love, it's all about navigating relationships, not being mildly interested in politics. So the last thing I take a small bit of issue with, but I think it just goes with the overall vibe of the book, with the overall vibe of the character, so I'm not going to complain too much about it. At the end of the day, I actually really enjoyed this one. This is my first 4-star book of the year, so let's celebrate that at least. I finally got to a book that I really enjoyed. I really liked the writing here. I don't know what it was about it, but it's so real and authentic, and she has such a distinct voice that I think it's really interesting to go into. I would highly recommend this for anyone else who wants to try out Eve Babbitt's. I think this was a great place to start, even though I've never read any of her other works. I just like, it immediately drew me in and made me want to read more of her novels. And the last book I read in the month of February is Why Be Happy When You Could Be Normal by Jeanette Winterson. This is her autobiography, or memoir. So it follows her life from when she was a very young child who was adopted into this like kind of crazy family. Well, at least she had a crazy mother. And then it goes into her adulthood, as any memoir does. I don't know why I just described it like that. Like, of course it follows her life. It's a memoir. But it goes into some really interesting moments, like when she was living in her car, or how she wasn't allowed to read books as a child, so she had to hide them under her mattress. And her mother being a crazy evangelical. And her mother locking her outside on the steps at night when she was like 4 years old, and her having to sleep outside throughout the night. It's really crazy. She lived a really, really interesting life. I think she's still alive. So maybe not lived. She has lived a very interesting life if she's still alive. I should have checked that. I also really liked the writing in here. There are a lot of, let me see if I can find one. There are a lot of quotes that like really stuck with me, which of course I can't find right now, which isn't fair at all. But I did add them to my Goodreads while I was reading this, so just go to my Goodreads if you're interested in those. I would also very much recommend this one. It's not told in like a completely linear fashion. She definitely skips around a lot and it reads kind of more like a train of consciousness than like the typical linear memoir. I think it was really good, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. It's not a complete 4-star moment, but definitely better than I think everything else I read this year so far has just been 3 stars, so things are picking up. Thank God. And then just as a little treat, such a treat, I'm going to talk about the books I'm currently reading, except I'm not really going to talk about them, I'm just kind of going to mention them. The first is The Final Girl support group, I thought I forgot the name for a second, by Grady Hendrix. This book follows a final girl support group, which means that these girls were all the survivors of like crazy homicidal act. And that they actually end up killing the killers. So they all meet with the support group, they all like share their stories, and eventually someone starts killing off the girls one by one, and our main character is trying to figure out what is going on and how to save herself. I'm definitely enjoying it so far. I'm a good way through, if you can see that. And then the other book that I'm currently reading is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. This is a beefy book. It's 1,300 pages. I think I'm only like 300 pages in, and I just had to give up for a little bit. I'm not currently reading it, but I'm going to be reading it. I'm sorry, I'm still looking for my page number. I'm on page 360. So 360 is only that much of the entire book. I'm on a tiny bit of a break with it right now just because it's a lot to read a classic like non-stop. I kind of need to intersperse it with like some more casual reading, but I will finish this book. And it's not going to take me all year to finish it. I'm manifesting this. I'm going to finish this book at a reasonable time. I'm not even going to describe this yet because honestly so much has gone on, and I think I'll have a better description for you once I've finished reading the book. But I think we all have a sense of what this is about already. And then actually, the third book that I'm reading that I don't have with me right in this moment is How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney. The name just tells you what it's about. It's about how Europe underdeveloped Africa. Also very interesting. I'm not too far into that one yet, but I'm excited to read further. So yeah, those are all the books I spent time on in the month of February. I almost forgot the month for a second. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon with another video. Goodbye.